So for this artist we are going to be looking at natural forms. Now this artist loves the mystery behind darker spaces within natural objects and what could it be hiding within there, so what ecosystems could be within those, what is growing there, how does it affect our life, or things like that. So what I've done is I have selected one of my own photographs and I have slightly zoomed into it just so I have this concentrated area here so I can see all detail and see what it is I want to draw. Now one of the reasons I've chosen this is because there are little places within there which will harbour life, okay? So there is a lot of detail we can capture, a lot of different tones and textures, and we're going to do that just with our pencil. Alright, so best thing you can do is find yourself a picture or actually get the object that you need and always have it in front of you. You need to be able to see all that detail. So what I've done is I've got my paper here and I've, as you can see, started to actually sketch out really lightly my outline. Now it's important to get this done first so you know exactly what shape you are looking at, you know where your detail needs to start. So I can carry on drawing all of this. Now as I said, I've done it really lightly. Best thing you can do, small strokes. Now these small strokes allow you to get really nice shape. You need to look really nice at which direction you are drawing as well, and then you can build all of that in. So our artist as well looks at line, and she uses line in the form of pressure, and this allows to build all of those different textures within it. So with my flower here, each petal will form and actually move in a different way. So depending on which way I want to draw, I need to think about which direction I draw in. Now I also need to think about my pressure. So for instance, this area here on the flower is a lot darker than this area here, and I can actually see the natural form of the line. I need to follow that. So what I've started to do, I've added a lot more pressure in these areas here, and as I get to this lighter sort of area, I can start to remove my really hard pressure. Now the direction I'm drawing in, this is indicating the direction that that leaf actually, or petal, actually forms. Okay, now I need to start as well thinking about all these other areas. Now these lines go in a different way. You have fingers, okay? You can use these to actually smudge some of them areas out, and that can help build into these other areas here. So I want to start adding now some darker lines, thinking about the direction that my actual leaf goes. And again, might use some smudging. Now, a really important trick, always have your rubber with you. This will help you just to add those really light areas as well, bringing back in those lighter tones just to make it look more 3D. So don't need it just yet because I'm going to keep adding my darker areas into this leaf. Now just applying that pressure really builds up those darker tones, and you can see I've kept to the direction in which my leaf is actually forming. Okay, now I can add lots of little strokes as well, and that's still adding my texture in, but because I'm releasing my pressure, I'm getting sort of mid-tones on there. Okay, now I also want to think as well, although this leaf here is still forming in the same way, it's actually the back side of the leaf, and you can see there are different tones. This area here is a lot lighter than this. So again, think about your pressure, how much you are pressing down, and how you can start to add those lighter areas. Now our artist really likes to look at these little areas that might be harbouring any life. It's the really dark areas that she focuses on. She loves the idea of how something small, ecosystems, can be growing some new life. So we really want to make sure we get those dark areas nice and dark as possible. Now you can do this not just by having lots of pressure, but you can do this as well just by constantly going over that same area. Again, as I said, you can go back in, use your finger, and that can start just to blend some of that together, and you can start to see where all the different sections are. Okay, now as I said before, your rubber is also a really good tool, so if I need to lighten up some areas, I can go in. Now using your rubber and actually rubbing it in the same direction works really nicely. You're now adding different textures and different tones back in, because we don't want to lose that shape. We want to make sure our leaves look like they are forming in the same direction. Okay, now we do have these little bits here. Now there is a distinction between those tones. There are some lighter areas towards the base of that flower, and then towards the top, these little sort of bulbs on the end, they're a lot darker, so you do want to press a bit harder with these. Now it is going to be quite tricky to get that lighter area towards the centre, but all you need to do is press really hard on that top bit, and then just when you're dragging away, releasing your pressure. So you can really darken some of them areas then. So you can see now I'm starting to get a nice form, starting to get a good shape of actually what these leaves look like, and I'm getting a nice distinction between my tones as well. So I've got quite a nice dark tone here, my sort of mid-range, and then a really nice light tone. Now it's all right to go over really lightly and do some light strokes just to build back in texture again, but just think about how you do that. How are you going to create different lines? Which way should your lines be going? The direction is really important to make sure you get the right shape. Okay, now you need to take your time with this. Keep looking back. The trick is, if you are pressing down too hard, yes, you can rub out, but you will still see those marks. So if you are struggling to get those darker tones, start off lighter first, because you can always add and it's easier to rub away. I'm just a bit more advanced, so I do go in sometimes with my darker areas, so I know then which my lighter tones are going to be. It's up to you. Just bear that in mind, that when you are doing this, you need to make sure that if you need to rub anything out, you haven't pressed too hard beforehand. Okay, so as I said, just keep going around, try and get as much detail into it as possible, and then you can start to obviously draw all your other sections after that. So I might carry on with this leaf here and build that down. These areas in this part are really dark, so this is actually part of the bed of that flower.